While it's always really important to have a medical doctor in charge of our healthcare, naturopathy may be a useful adjunctive therapy when it comes to supporting our health and wellness goals. We've got naturopath Nicky Wood with us today, who's going to talk to us about ways we can maximise our health, how we can improve our diet to lose weight, and some precautions we need to know about when it comes to utilising alternative therapies. Thank you, honestly, for joining us today. It's really good to have you. And I wanted to start by asking you, what role do you see naturopathy perhaps playing in someone's health and wellness plan?
It plays, I find, a pretty integral role. It fills many gaps along the way, or along the journey of someone's healthcare program. And those gaps primarily are in supporting wellness and vitality, general well-being, and tweaking those parts that we see are missing in terms of that support process for how to fill a gap where somebody perhaps is feeling that their energy and fatigue is not picking up, which can often drive healing forward or the process of wellness forward. But there isn't a direct link to anything specific that has been able to be uncovered by, for instance, their GP. And in many cases, what we'll do is we'll have a look at the drivers behind somebody's condition and identify what are the likely lifestyle factors that would be perhaps contributing to those drivers. And I guess we sort of look outside. If you think about a rock being thrown into a pond where it creates many ripples, we'll look at all of the ripples and make sure that every single one of them gets a little bit of attention, so that we can pull that healthcare program back together for that patient, whilst they're also seeking some scientific medical guidance from their doctor.
Yeah, sure. So what sort of conditions do patients have when they come to see you and that you can sort of help with?
All kinds of conditions. One of the things and one of the first parts of what I do when I'm seeing a patient for the first time is remind my patient that I'm not there to diagnose conditions. So quite often my patients have already had a diagnosis, or they're not quite sure where to go to find a diagnosis. So quite often I am that conduit. I often say to my patients, I'm very much a wellness concierge. So I might actually suggest you might want to go back to your GP and ask them about maybe looking in this area of your health if you haven't been able to articulate the information. So I'll help my patients articulate what I think they need to ask for, because I guess that's part of that communication process that sometimes gets lost in a really quick consultation in the GP's office. And so I'll try to shorten that process up for them. But many conditions will come in. So predominantly digestive related, energy or fatigue related conditions, unknown pain and immune problems that are of a general well-being process. So I know I'm not well, that sense of well-being is not there, but I don't know why, and I don't know where to start looking. That's quite often a situation. And more recently, I've been seeing a lot of skin conditions coming through. So again, these are conditions that just seem to have this underlying driver still untouched. And I'll go in and start looking at where are those drivers sitting and what do we need to do to be able to support the dermatological process, for instance. So many systems across many conditions will come through the door for various reasons and at various stages of stalling in the healing process. And I see my role as helping move that stalling process forward.
Oh, that's great. That's really that's really positive sort of take on the whole holistic sense of someone's health and well-being. Well, I guess obesity is going to be a massive, or it already is a massive health problem. In fact, I think they're saying that it is the biggest health challenge of our time now. So if someone
Yeah.
comes to you wanting to lose weight, when you said, you're the sort of conduit, or you can help with the how. So how does someone start going about losing weight, say, if they're coming to see you to talk about that?
Yeah, certainly. And so the weight conversation I have with my patients is, in order to lose weight, you also need to be healthy. You can't lose weight and forgive your health at the same time, or forget your health at the same time.
Yeah.
And I say, in fact, let's aim for getting healthier, and we'll have a look and see what happens to your weight, because oftentimes weight loss will be a side effect of that.
Oh,
a pleasant one.
That's great. Yeah.
So that mental approach automatically eases the pressure and the strain, because usually what I find when someone is experiencing obesity and it's been an ever increasing process, that they've tried a number of times already and it's failed, or they've not stuck to it long enough in order to convince the body to change. So I see parts of the solutions to successful weight loss, and particularly managing obesity, is that you're asking the body to change at various different phases or stages of weight loss. So what we want to do is make sure that the change is manageable each time. So you're going to lose weight, and then you'll stop losing weight, and then you'll continue losing weight again, and then you'll stop. And at each time you do that, your body needs something different. And so it might be the same different at each phase, at each different change. So every time you stop, you might need the same kind of approach at every time that happens, but you also may need a little bit of a different deviation. So for example, when you've got this basic foundation of eat well, move your body, and you will lose weight. But people can sometimes do that and they don't lose weight. So then we start moving into a model of what's getting in the way of that. Well, you've got hormone resistance or hormone signaling that's getting in the way, and we need to actually address hormone signaling conditions. There could be a toxin release process that's impeding the process of continual weight loss. In fact, you may lose weight and stop purely because your body's just having this lymphatic moment that it needs some support with. And then we can move that on. Consistency is certainly the way through. And then I also often will bring in tapping. So I will use tapping with all of my weight loss patients in and around managing the mindset of food, and the mindset of appetite, and the mindset around craving, because when weight loss is happening, appetites change and food cravings can sometimes revisit us. So I'll use a nutritional exercise model alongside a mindset coaching model, and the two will run together. And then naturopathically, I'm just always looking out for signs of hormone interference or interactions, and also lymphatic liver toxicity that could be slowing things down, the pathways, the detox pathways, getting a little bit too much to deal with, and supporting those along the way. But attitudes around food and attitudes around themselves that's a big part of that. And in fact, quite often I will see that there has been some form of trauma with an obese patient somewhere along the line, whether or not it was somebody said something nasty at school, or they've actually been through something a little bit more serious. And I will always approach that subject gently, but there usually is a reason why there's so much protection around that person's body. The stress response plays a huge role as well. So, what I'm always doing is looking for where the starting point or the continuation of obesity has been allowed to happen, and put roadblocks in front of that as much as we can.
Sorry. I liked what you said about let's look at getting healthy rather than let's look at losing weight. Because if someone probably just added their 5 serves of vegetables and 2 serves of fruit into whatever they're eating, and that was a must do every day, you have to fit these 5 serves of veggies in and 2 serves of fruit. Some of the other stuff would probably just start dropping off because they'd be too full to eat it.
Absolutely. Well, this is the thing, sometimes it's not about being underfed, it's being undernourished.
Yeah.
That is a 2021, a 21st century problem.
Yeah.
We have people who are eating because they are putting food in their body.
Yeah.
And they're even exercising, and they're trying to find out, why am I not losing weight, or why is my body composition? And that's a conversation I often have with my obese patients.
Yeah.
We're not actually really aiming just on weight here. We're actually looking at how can we improve the body composition, because we need body composition to drive forward and maintenance of healthy weight once you get there.
Yeah.
So body composition also comes into the conversation around leptin resistance as well, so hormone resistance, when you're starting to burn fat, which then starts to trigger off appetite changes. And the other part of that is eating. I give them a lot of strategy around reward eating, and the reward center, the dopamine center, because quite often that will be one of the big things that comes up when they're starting to lose weight. Yeah, so it's a multifactorial approach. It has to be. There are so many factors that happened on the journey to becoming obese that weren't there to start with, but they've come on board as your body's gained weight, because your body's always trying to find that way to achieve balance. So eventually it just has a lot of trouble there, and metabolically there's a number of factors then that have added on along the way. So sometimes that becomes part of the prescription, is also dealing with some of the additional metabolic factors that have happened as a result of obesity arriving eventually in someone's life. So I think it's really important to continue to aim for health. Let's get you healthy. Let's get you healthy on so many levels. Your body doesn't know what else to do but lose weight.
Yeah. I like that. I really like that attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it takes. And there's many. That's the difficult part, is transitioning my passion around that, and the knowing that it can happen for that person into their day-to-day habits, activities, things that they do when they go home. So the key is regularity of support. So I often do little 15-minute appointments with my obesity patients. We do some weighs and measures. We do all the traditional stuff, but I'm always looking for, how's your attitude going around your food? How is your attitude around going for exercise? How can we tweak that? How can we keep aiming for that movement towards the habits that will embed into becoming healthy in the outcome, but weight loss being the result?
Oh, what are some of the naturopathic treatments that you do see as really benefiting people that come to see you?
I find botanical medicine fantastic when it's well applied.
Okay.
There are a number of reasons why that is the case, and that's not just for the actions that we're looking for from particular herbal formulas, but it's also because they have this underlying nutritive profile as well. Most plants do. And so what we're able to do is, instead of adding a synthetic nutritional approach, we're actually still able to support general nutrition at a very micro level. So you trace minerals and vitamins at a trace level. We can also influence how the body's response to medicine and to change by using botanical medicine. So I love it because it's sort of like a multi-faceted approach just in one medicine. And so that's one of the modalities that I really do love working with. I also do love working with homeopathy because the compliance there, particularly with children, is extremely high. And I find that the clinical outcomes are also quite consistent. So, and I think what homeopathy does is also gives some parents just that little bit of time at home to observe, and they learn observation skills when I'm educating them around using homeopathic medicines. So their observation skills sharpen, and that I find is also a great modality to work with as well. But I think that the most important one that we can do as naturopaths is to teach our patients how to have a healthy relationship with food, how to have that extend into the joy of cooking and the joy of food preparation, and how to become your own foodie when it comes to finding therapeutics in food. So I love to give food advice when I'm doing a prescription, because there are plenty of therapeutics in food in your cabinet that you can incorporate to, again, round out that basis of a prescription, it's the stuff in the background that kind of taps everything else along. You know, one of the beautiful things I love about having a home-based clinic is that I'm growing produce, so I can give my patients, hey, I'm recommending you eat rosemary, so here's some rosemary.
All right.
You've got no excuse to use it.
Oh, that's right.
That's
awesome.
You know,
you just medicines out of the garden.
That's right. That's right. I mean, my poor little old cottage that I live in, it's just, I will knock it down at some stage and build something a little bit more aesthetic. But, you know, in the clinic at the back, it's quite new, and I've got that space to be able to do that education process. So, you know, so I love that building that relationship with food, and food preparation is probably the most important thing that we can do as a practitioner, because that's what people do every day. They need that relationship with food. It's not enough to just fill a gap and stop hunger. We need to be thinking broader as far as what else can we do to influence the epigenetics, to support the healthy terrain of the body, to soothe a neurotransmitter that's firing way too much, and creating this experience of tension and stress in our bodies. What are these things that you can do at home every other day? Because I'm not living in with you, so I can't go home and say, I think you need some chamomile tea right now, double bag that because you need a strong one. But I can give you the information and hope that some of that will translate into actions along the way. So sometimes, you know, I'll repeat some information that I've said the same way, and sometimes that repetition, it's enough for patients to go, oh, you really did mean that. And I'm like, yeah, there was a reason why. There's methods to my madness, but the outcome is quite the opposite to madness. So so I think that building that relationship with foods and the different things that you can get from different therapeutic foods, which are laying around your home, that you should be ingesting. It's no good having it on the shelf. It needs to be in your body.
What are some of these foods that you would recommend all of us to start incorporating into our diet? I know everybody's different, but are there some staples that we should all be sort of trying to ingest more of?
Yeah, I think there is. And, you know, I think digestion is perhaps the one thing that you can support the most using some of these therapeutic foods. If you get good digestion, you get good absorption of nutrients. When your nutrients are absorbing well, your body's going to use them as it's intended to keep balance. So things that help your digestion is also is going to be quite important. I love ginger and garlic as staples in your cooking. Whether or not you're having that in a drink form or in your actual cooking, but getting that going considerably frequently throughout your daytime and evening time in food. I'll have garlic in a meal in the morning. Yes, quite often I will do a pan fry of vegetables, so mushroom, zucchini, asparagus, cherry tomatoes, garlic, and I'll go and get some thyme out of the garden, and that just does a little bit of a bacteria check in my gut when it hits the digestive system down low. So I know that I've done something along the lines of that to just give my gut a little bit of support bacterially. Having fresh herbs and or dried herbs frequently added to your food enhances the flavour, which is great for the brain because your brain loves flavour. And that gives you a lovely dopamine hit, so you feel good. But it also adds extra antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, whatever antis that particular herb has in its suite of action from the components in that particular herb. You're getting that, and you're getting those extra nutritive boosts as well. So I think having some herbs, I love pesto if you're not allergic or sensitive to the ingredients in pesto. A freshly made pesto with lots of garlic and basil, fantastic as a functional food. I love hummus for the same reason. And I'm a big fan of having the odd dandelion and licorice root tea, and as a nice strong sort of roasted support food or beverage for your adrenals and your liver. and your digestive system. I love that combination. I love having herbal teas as a combination as well. So, you know, dropping some ginger in with some chamomile and peppermint if you're feeling a little bit upset in the tummy, for instance, or double bagging some green tea and chamomile if you're feeling a little anxious. So, you know, these are the kind of things that you can have in your cupboards that will give you just that little bit of ongoing support. But yeah, I'm a big fan of herbs nutritionally and culinary herbs, as well as the botanicals that we will blend for therapeutic outcome as well.
Oh, beautiful.
Of course, a naturopath would love herbs, but I actually love herbs. I love the flavour of them.
No,
yeah.
herbs are great. Like, we've actually just started a little balcony garden with some herbs. So yeah,
Great.
yeah, I love basil. Basil's one of my favourite.
And I love rocket as well. Rocket or bitter. That bitter principle. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I'm very impressed with your breakfast. What do you eat for lunch? More vegetables?
Well, actually, I haven't had my lunch today because I have patients and then straight into our appointment. But yeah, sometimes I'll do a salad. So yesterday I had a salad. I pan fried some pumpkin and some pine nuts and pumpkin seeds. Wow. And whilst that was oven roasted those. Whilst that was oven roasting, I threw a salad together, really quick one. And then at the last minute, I threw some zucchini slices. And then I had that. That was on top of the salad. And then I did a drizzle of mayonnaise, a drizzle of balsamic glaze, and a topping of dukkha. And I make the dukkha. So I'm like, yum, this is great. So it smells good. It's got colour. I have to stop myself from photographing my lunch now. You know, I just do the same thing most of the time. But yeah.
Send me some photos. I'd love to see your lunch. And what about dinner? What are you going to have for dinner?
Yeah, so tonight, I sound like Kim Kardashian, don't I? Tonight, it's nice. I'm having, my partner and his son are visiting tonight for dinner. His son's also visiting for the first time in ages that he's been. In fact, since I moved in here, he lives in Melbourne, so he came up a little while ago and he's heading back tomorrow. So we're doing a man's meal, and the man's meal is something I don't normally actually eat, which is pork. I very rarely eat pork, but I made a hickory marinade earlier today. So I made that from scratch. I just sort of made it from, I actually cross-referenced a couple of recipes and I've made my version of it. And so that's marinating at the moment. So that'll be with like a coleslaw or a cabbage-based salad, and probably some roasted potato. So I'll cut up a little bit of potato and roast that with some rosemary and garlic and olive oil, a little bit of salt. So that's
really
going to be dinner.
I'm really impressed. I don't think you can fault your diet. I mean, how could you get it better? That's pretty good.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I think probably need to lean off the the animal components from time to time. But I do that, and then so one day's never the same as the other.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're probably an advocate of this, a plant-based diet, probably, like mostly plants, do you think? And then some of your good proteins and...
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And my word of warning to those who are working within a vegan model is you need to be across your food combinations. You need to absolutely be on top of your protein, iron and calcium every day at nearly every meal. And if you're not, then we need to talk. But I find that, I am a big, in terms of proportions, big fan of a higher proportion of plant-based produce versus having a higher proportion of animal-based produce in the diet, but not without the absence of both.
Can you share a patient story with us of someone who came to you who was struggling with their health or, their overall sense of health and well-being, and that you've been able to help go on to lead a happier, healthier life?
There's many stories like that I can share. There's one interesting one that comes to mind when I sort of I always think about my ongoing patients that we're doing quite a few stages of healthcare at the moment, but I have one particular lady who I help remotely. And and much of what we're doing is around weight loss. And we've done this journey a few times. Well, this is the second time round that we've actually really focused on it for her. The first time round, she lost heaps of weight and was happy. And then things changed in her life. I didn't see her for a few years, and now she's coming back. But she said, this time I feel different. And I said, what is the difference that you feel? We're kind of doing a similar thing to what we did last time. She said, this time I love myself. And you taught me that. You taught me how to love yourself. And I said, I love myself. And I said, that's what's brought you back here. It's not because you needed to see me. It's because you had enough love in yourself to know that you wanted to feel better. And so when that journey for her has been a real light bulb moment. It's like, oh my God, all I'm doing is just finding different ways of being really kind to myself. And it's working for me. And I'm feeling different. And I've lost a bra size, and my scales aren't showing me that I'm losing weight, but I know I am. I'm like, oh, so you're not losing weight. You're gaining yourself. And your scales won't tell you, they don't give you a measurement of that. Even measuring your body doesn't give you a measurement of that. So if you do those things, but you're feeling more energetic, more connected to who you are as a human, you're exercising more, you're more prepared to try different things. This is the first time I've seen her more prepared to try different things. Then your body will get there eventually. So just trust that. I know that it will. So it can't continue doing what it had been doing in this new model of well-being. So I know the human body well enough to know that that is the case. So we just keep working towards that model of well-being, and you'll continue to see your body deliver on all these different little delightful things that we can't measure, because you can feel it in yourself. If there's a difference, there's a change in yourself. And she said, I did some tapping with her for chocolate craving. She had a really, really bad chocolate craving. Her husband would bring back chocolates, and every night he'd bring back some chocolate of some sort. And I'm a bit of a fan of chocolate as well, but I have a few rules around, it's got to be dark to start with. But he would bring like trays of chocolate, and they would just devour them, which of course, that there's so many things that you can say that are driving that habit. Some of that's mood orientated, some of that's, emotional, some of that's hormonal and bacterial. But for her, we did some tapping, and that shifted and changed that whole chocolate craving completely. And she said, and, my husband brought them home, and I didn't want them. I couldn't eat them. And I said, that's great. You're not tied to that as a craving. So you're free to now explore other foods that will give you that sense of treat without adding that extra load. In fact, they'll actually be therapeutic, and therefore give you a list of what those foods are and how to eat them. But she said to me the other night, so I saw her the other night, and she said, I still don't want to eat chocolate. In fact, I actually ate a little bit of ice cream the other night, and then that was enough. I just had a little bit, and that's all I needed. It was just a reminder that it was there. And I said, so you're actually exerting self-control now. And that's something you didn't have before. So we can't measure that. It doesn't show up on your scales. So, these are the kind of conversations that I often have with my patients. And she's showing, she has lost weight, but it's not dramatic. But what has happened with her is far more important as far as a foundation, because I'm giving her the tools. Emotionally, she's gathering those even more tools along the way to be able to make good decisions. And if she's making good decisions, that's going to be insurance for weight management down the track.
Oh, that's fantastic. That must make you feel really good inside to know that people are being helped. Yeah.
It really does. It really does. And I've got a plethora of stories like that. A lady that is quite close to me in the family, who had psoriasis forever. And she came back to me and she said, I just want to get on top of this. And we're working with some other things. I just want to get on top of this. And I said, it's not going to be nice. You're going to go through, some phases of this treatment protocol that we will need to go through in order to get you there. But you'll get there. And of course, she went through the ugly stage, which is what I call it when we were dealing with deep skin conditions. And it was very, looking very nasty there for a little while. And I said, look, if you're worried about how it's looking, we can always stop and treat this medically if you need to. I said, but you're really actually quite close. And literally within a week and a half after that, her skin had cleared. She's never had it back on her elbows again. She used to have these really big chunks of very thick psoriasis. She's never had it back. And I said, so what, essentially that process of you living with it now is understanding that your body can do this. If it's given the right environment, it will do it. But sometimes getting to that environment means you've got to go through this stargate of change and of ugliness. There's going to be, your body's going to want to deliver the disease before it owns its health. So, my job is to support you through that process. And she was great. She was incredibly compliant, incredibly communicative, which is awesome because that allows me to help her manage each phase as she was going through that. And she got there. But, that's what I call a chronic case.
Yeah. What sort of regime did you put her on?
It was a couple of stages of a variety of dietary changes that I did, and herbs, and that and then just some support nutrients for the matrix of the skin itself. So for the skin to do its best job of what it normally does when it's naturally doing what it needs to do. And so what we were doing is really trying to manage inflammation to start with, which was the driver of autoimmune disease. So to manage that inflammation and remove anything that drives that inflammation out of the diet, including some of the mental, emotional aspects of that. But predominantly changing the diet so that it had a really good basis to it for managing histamine management or histamine release to begin with, and then ecology balancing. So we switched over diets partway through to ecology balancing and protocols around that, and that's pretty much what we stick with now.
Oh, great.
So, and I think there was a ketogenic aspect to that as well, because we really needed to drive in some of the anti-inflammatory factors.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we just sort of staged each one when it needed to happen.
Okay, yeah.
The principle of observing one's vital force is something that, as naturopaths, it sort of underpins. It's one of the base tenets of what we do. And vital force is something that, in fact, I was thinking about this the other day about, what does a healthy person look like to you? When you look at someone, you go, wow, you look really healthy and vital. What does that look like to you, and what do you think they're doing to get there? And, that vital force is something that you can see in a person from a mile away. And, when their health goes off track, that vital force drops off. And that's something that, for instance, in your case with the Parkinson's and the light could well be helping to rev up vital force and to allow that body to have a different cellular response to be able to work with medication to really push things forward. So, vital force is such a beautiful way to look and view someone's health progress. Is it there or is it not? And if not, what do we do to get it there?
Yeah, absolutely. So what important gap do you think naturopathy can fill in the medical system? Like, do you think what you're offering patients, as well as health and wellness advice, it's also time. You can offer more time, I think, to patients too, can't you? To listen to them.
Yeah. We tend to be very nosy as practitioners, so we do like to know a lot of information from our patients. So we do reserve quite a bit of time with our patients. We offer an ear. We often offer many tissues. We often offer just that space and the environmental space. Oftentimes our clinics have got that lovely retreat or respite feel to it. Through our use of music and aromatherapy and natural tones or whatever it is, but we do tend to offer that space where people can come and just offload and offload across the board. Like, it's not only a mental, emotional offload, it's what do I do with my food? How do I manage this? Should I take that? Should I take this? So we really are acting in a way as a big sounding board for those generic health questions that fall into the gap that you may not have time to have answered with the GP, or it's not the GP specialty at the time and they don't have the opportunity to be able to give the answers without doing further research. which requires perhaps 2 appointments. So we do sort of offer that ability to be able to sort of land all those random questions at us. And we will have the time to research, and we devote the time to do that research after you're gone if we haven't, and we'll contact you back. We've got that, I guess, that ability to be able to offer a number of different solutions across systems as well. We're always using herbs, for instance, or botanical medicine as a way of cross-referencing actions to systems. So, we can sort of hit the nail on the head with a few different cross approaches at the same time. But most definitely, I think the time and yes, the ability to be able to talk it out, half the time that does the job. Like in most cases, a lot of people have got the answers already. And just by having heard or being heard, they'll arrive at which direction feels right for them. And that often, that often is the case. Sometimes I'll say to a patient, if you don't feel that you've got a good relationship with your GP, don't not see a GP. Find one that you have a good relationship with. Yeah. Because that relationship building is so important, and the relief you have when you get that medical team behind you, that, that acupuncturist, that GP, that dietitian, that naturopath, whatever it is that fits well for you, whoever that team is, when you found your tribe, it feels amazing that you know that you can then march on through your work life and whatever goals you have, knowing that if you fall over a little bit, you know who it is that you're going to go to.
That's great. That's really good.
Yeah. And my daughter was born with a genetic condition that required many surgeries, and she's actually having one next week. And we spent a lot of time in hospitals with plastic surgeons and ENT surgeons and neurosurgeons and ophthalmologic surgeons. And, my journey with her as a parent actually made me a better practitioner, because I had to get myself in my head around being in the medical model and dealing with her conditions from a medical perspective and supporting her journey with my naturopathic knowledge. And it's absolutely made me a better practitioner, having that relationship and dealing in the area where perhaps many practitioners in natural medicine perhaps would try and avoid as much as possible. I couldn't. I had to go there, and I'm really happy I did.
Yeah. Look, I agree. It's such a relief too when something can be fixed. Like, because I had spinal surgery last year actually. So I had a ruptured disc, and I did Pilates and a lot of exercises for a year to sort of address it, and I sort of did all the lifestyle things, and I got to be honest, after the surgery, to be pins and needle free and sciatica free, it was like, God bless you, surgeon, you actually fixed it. It was a mechanical issue.
Absolutely, exactly. This is the thing, like you just have to arrive at that time in your life where you've got to make those decisions. Yeah. I'm very pragmatic. I was raised with a very lateral thinking, minding dad, and a very pragmatic family approach. And I think that is such an important trait to have in medicine. We've got to have some pragmatic, taints in our decision making from time to time. It's got to make sense. It's got to be good common sense as well as medical sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I really agree with you. And it's like I said before, it's the holistic health now, isn't it? Like just bringing the more we have in our arsenal, the better, surely, anyway.
Absolutely. And look, it's not going away. People are going to be involving themselves in some form of natural medicine on some level at some point in their life. It's here for a reason, and we've got to work out a way to get it into into a regular conversation that people aren't afraid of having. And vice versa, I've sometimes got patients of mine will come in and like, oh, I had some Panadol the other day, or I had to have antibiotics. I'm like, all right, that's okay. Fine. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
If your body balance out, we'll get it back on track again. Don't worry about that. That's you didn't commit a crime, and your body's not going to hate you for it, and I'm not going to judge you. And did it work? Fantastic. Let's move on and let's get you back on track again. So, it's amazing how many people will come in and feel that they've done something wrong And that's the wrong message as far as I'm concerned. That really shouldn't be the case. It's all about balance. We've always got to keep working for that homeostatic balance. That's what the body's built for. That's what it's innate knowing how to do things is based around. It's always trying to find homeostatic balance, and whatever it takes to get there, we should be prepared to put it in front of that particular body at that time in their life.
Yeah. What do people out there that don't know much about naturopathy, what sort of cautions would it be good to put out there? Because there are obviously stories of, people with those serious medical conditions that have turned to natural medicine, and then we've had deaths, teenagers being treated with herbs for asthma and they've died, and babies have died from bacterial problems because they haven't had the proper antibiotics that they needed. And so what sort of warnings should we give? Because there is that danger too, that people will shun conventional medicine when it's needed, turn to natural medicine, and may not get a practitioner like you, may get someone else who perhaps, dare I say, will sort of have the attitude that natural medicine is the way to go and will totally shun conventional. So what sort of warnings or cautions should we put out there for people, do you think?
Yeah, so if I was not a natural therapist and I was a patient and I was looking for health guidance and I didn't feel like I was getting it in point A and I was looking outside to go to point B, for instance, the first thing I would do is do some good research and contact associations that register naturopaths. If you're a naturopath and you're registered with an association, that association has a degree of care and a degree of responsibility to make sure that their members are trained, insured, and keeping up with their regular education requirements throughout the year. Secondary, if you are coming across a practitioner that's saying to you that this is the only way, regardless of what their medicine modality is, I would err on the side of caution there as well, because you are a human being with a multifactorial set of needs. And one form of medicine and modality won't do that, and that is inclusive of all natural therapies as well. There are many modalities within our industry that I will refer my patients to because I know my limitations, and that's the other thing is if your practitioner feels as though they can cover everything and they're not prepared to refer you and they're not prepared to have a transparent conversation with your main practitioner, then I think that would be a warning sign for me as well.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, well, that's good to sort of keep in mind for people in terms of when we're talking about the sort of more serious medical conditions that do need that treatment.
Absolutely. I would never say to a patient who's coming to me for support with an oncological condition to ditch their oncology or their oncologist or anyone that's on their team from the hospital, or I would never say that to a patient. And in fact, some of my patients that I am supporting with those kind of conditions, I have some great relationships and conversations and communication with their practitioners. And we're just very mindful of making sure that we're complementing what the treatment protocol is, what the primary treatment protocol is. Like any practitioner, not all naturopaths will deliver every answer that you're looking for. And so it is about finding, I think working with someone that's got a decent amount of experience will help. It's not always going to be the outcome though, but it will help. But I think don't disregard naturopathy. Like I would say also don't disregard a GP that you didn't find had all the answers. It's the same thing, there are practitioners out there in both fields of medicine or both fields of health support that are extremely very knowledgeable and very grounded in their approach and can really help. So don't throw the modality out if you haven't had an ideal experience. Understand also, I guess, that naturopathy is not a quick fix. It's not the I'm going to pop a pill and then my disease is going to go away model at all. It does require you to make change, and it does require you to make change for long enough to get the body to respond. And if you are at all concerned about a prescription that you're being given by your naturopath or by your GP, please go back and talk to them. Don't just drop off and walk away. Have a conversation. If that's your last consultation you have with them, at least give them the opportunity to either wind the case up with you at that point in time and refer, or make changes to the prescription, because it just may be on that day that's how it looked to them, that was what was required, but it may not have been the full story. There may not have been all the information available to them. So definitely, have that communication with them before you walk away. I think it's really important that that we get brave enough to be able to say to our practitioners, look, this isn't working. What can you do to help it work? Or what should I do, or who should I see from here on in? Yeah. And as practitioners, I think we need to be prepared to have those conversations and help our patients find the answers.
I think that's really fantastic. I think that's really sound advice for all of us. And I really appreciate having the chance to chat to you today about this topic and to open it up for people more and to give people more information about it. And I think to make us more aware of our health. I think that's always a really good thing.
I don't go to work at all one day a week. I have work to do, but I'm never at work. I love what I do. It's awesome. A calling. Yeah.
That's really awesome, Nicky. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your advice today for us, and have a good weekend, and we might chat again soon.
Yeah, sounds great, Steve. It'd be nice to meet one day in person too.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, it'd be awesome. See you, Nicky.
Right. Okay, bye.
Bye.